First contact and deception. The gleaming ships of the Nexus Collective filled Earth's skies like stars brought down from heaven. Their arrival had been heralded as humanity's greatest moment. First contact with an advanced civilization that promised to share their knowledge and technology. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the central chamber of the United Earth Defense Council, watching the holographic display of yet another gift from their alien benefactors. The neural interface targeting system is remarkably efficient, the Collective's ambassador, Vel9, explained. Its crystalline form shifted colors as it spoke, creating mesmerizing patterns. Simply think, and the weapon responds. We believe your species will find it most illuminating. Sarah exchanged glances with General Marcus Rivera, noting the slight tightening around his eyes. 6 months of these demonstrations, each weapon more sophisticated than the last, and always the same patronizing tone. Always the same carefully structured tests to measure human responses. Fascinating technology, Sarah replied, maintaining her position as Earth's lead researcher for the integration project. Though I'm curious why you're so interested in our weapons compatibility, rather than, say, medical applications. Vel9's crystalline surface flickered briefly. All in good time, Dr. Chen. Your species must learn to walk before it can run. After the demonstration, Sarah and Marcus met in her secure lab, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with dismantled alien tech, each piece meticulously analyzed and documented. But it was the hidden screen that drew their attention. The one showing unauthorized scans of alien neural patterns during weapons use. They're lying to us, Sarah said, pulling up her latest findings. These weapons aren't just interface systems. They're recording everything. Reaction times, decision-making patterns, stress responses. We're being studied. Marcus leaned closer to the display, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic data. Question is, studied for what? They could have simply asked for this information. Unless they didn't want us to know what they were looking for, Sarah replied, bringing up another set of scans. Look at these patterns. The weapons are testing our capacity for aggression, our ability to adapt to new combat scenarios. We're not students to them, Marcus. We're lab rats. The general's expression hardened. How many people know about this? Just my core team. Dr. Patel in neuroscience, Dr. Yamamoto in xenobiology, and Lieutenant Cooper in cyber warfare. We've kept it compartmentalized. Keep it that way, Marcus ordered, studying the data streams. But I want you to dig deeper. If they're studying us, I want to know why. And Sarah, he turned to face her directly. Be careful. I've seen how they look at us during these demonstrations, like we're amusing pets who've learned a new trick. Sarah nodded, already pulling up more diagnostic tools. They think we're primitive, Marcus, that we can't possibly understand their technology beyond the simple user interface they've given us. But they've made a critical mistake, which is... A slight smile crossed her face as she brought up a new set of schematics, her team's reverse-engineered versions of the alien weapons, modified and improved. They forgot that humans have been turning other people's weapons against them since we first picked up sticks and stones. And we're very, very good at it. As Marcus left, Sarah turned back to her work, the alien weapons scattered across her lab taking on a new significance. The Nexus Collective thought they were clever, using humanity as unwitting test subjects. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating human ingenuity. In the depths of space, aboard the Collective's command ship, Vel9 submitted its latest report to the Council of Nine. Human weapons adaptation proceeds as expected. They show remarkable enthusiasm for the technology, though limited understanding of its true potential. Recommend proceeding to Phase 2 of the evaluation. The Council's response was immediate. Approved. Begin combat stress trials. Let us see how these humans perform when they realize their true position in the galaxy. Little did they know, humanity was already several steps ahead of their carefully laid plans. The game was about to change, and the pawns were preparing to challenge the kings. The hidden advantage. Dr. Sarah Chen's laboratory hummed with activity as holographic displays filled the air with cascading data streams. Lieutenant Maya Cooper sat cross-legged in her workstation, neural interface headset glowing as she probed deeper into the alien code. Across the room, Dr. Raj Patel monitored brain activity patterns, while Dr. Yuki Yamamoto analyzed biological responses. "There's something odd about these neural patterns," Maya announced, her fingers dancing through the holographic interface. "The weapons aren't just recording our responses, they're trying to shape them, like they're attempting to program our behavior." Sarah moved to Maya's station, studying the scrolling data. "Show me." "Look here." Maya highlighted a section of code. "When we fire the weapons, they send feedback signals to our brains. Subtle things, reward responses, aggression amplification, fear suppression. But there's a problem with their programming. Their signals aren't calibrated for human brains," Dr. Patel interjected, pulling up his own data. "Our neural plasticity is off their charts. We don't just adapt to the interface, we reshape it." Sarah felt her pulse quicken as the implications became clear. They designed these weapons for rigid, predictable neural patterns, species that follow predetermined responses. But human brains, we're chaos engines. Dr. Yamamoto finished, grinning. "Our neural pathways are constantly reorganizing themselves. The more they try to program us, the more we unconsciously resist and adapt." General Rivera arrived as they were compiling their findings, his presence adding gravity to the moment. "Talk to me, people. What have we got?" Sarah gestured to the central display, where a composite of their discoveries painted a disturbing picture. "The collective isn't just studying us, Marcus. They're trying to create the perfect soldier species. These weapons are conditioning tools, designed to enhance aggression while maintaining absolute loyalty through neural programming." "But it's not working on us," Maya added, pulling off her headset. "Human brains are too adaptable. We're not just learning to use their weapons, we're learning to control the underlying neural interface itself." Marcus studied the data, his expression darkening. "They're creating an army, testing different species, looking for the right combination of intelligence and controllability." He turned to Sarah. "How long before they realize we're not following their program?" "That's the beauty of it," Dr. Patel said, bringing up a new set of scans. "Our surface responses match their expectations. We're learning to use the weapons, showing the right levels of aggression and skill development. They can't see that underneath. We're completely rewiring their control systems." "We've already modified 3 of the prototype weapons," Maya reported. "Removed their behavioral controls, enhanced their capabilities, and the collective's own security protocols are helping us hide our work. They're so convinced of their superiority, they never thought to check if we could bypass their restrictions." A comm alert flashed on the main screen. Another weapons demonstration scheduled for the next day. The collective was escalating their tests, introducing more advanced combat scenarios. "They're getting bolder," Marcus observed, "starting to show their true intentions." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Let them. Every new weapon they give us is another opportunity to learn, to adapt. They think they're measuring our combat potential, but they're really giving us the tools to fight back." "How many weapons can we modify?" Marcus asked. "All of them," Maya replied confidently. "Their basic architecture is the same. Once we crack one, we can crack them all. And here's the thing. We're not just removing their controls. We're improving the weapons themselves. Human creativity combined with their technology. We're making them better than they ever imagined." Dr. Yamamoto brought up a simulation showing neural response patterns. "The real question is, what happens when they finally realize their test subjects have become better at their own technology than they are?" "They'll attack," Marcus stated flatly. "Try to eliminate the threat we represent before we can fully master their weapons." Sarah's expression hardened with determination. "Then we better make sure we're ready when they do. Maya, coordinate with the Cyber Warfare Division. I want every weapon they've given us modified and ready. Dr. Patel, Dr. Yamamoto, focus on developing countermeasures for their neural control systems. If they try to force compliance, I want our people protected." As her team sprang into action, Sarah turned to Marcus. "We're going to need to spread this knowledge. Carefully, quietly, but as many of our forces as possible need to learn these modifications." Marcus nodded grimly. "I'll handle it. But Sarah," he paused at the door, "whatever you do, keep playing along at tomorrow's demonstration. Let them think their plan is working." "Don't worry," she replied, a slight smile touching her lips. "They'll never see it coming. After all, we're just primitive humans, right? What could we possibly understand about their advanced technology?" In orbit, aboard the collective's command ship, Vel-9 reviewed the latest test results with growing satisfaction. The humans were performing exactly as expected, eager to prove themselves, quick to master the basic functions of the weapons, showing all the right signs of neural conditioning. If only they could see the subtle changes taking place in their supposedly primitive test subjects. Changes that would soon teach the collective a lesson about underestimating humanity's greatest strength, their endless capacity to adapt, to learn, and to overcome. Turning the tables. The attack came at dawn. Thousands of collective ships dropped out of hyperspace, their crystalline hulls reflecting the first rays of sunlight. Vel-9's voice echoed across all communication channels, its tone filled with cold certainty. "Humanity has been evaluated and found wanting. Your species lacks the discipline required for advancement. Submit to neural reconditioning, or face extinction." In her command center beneath the Rockies, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the invasion unfold on multiple holographic displays. General Rivera stood beside her, his face illuminated by the tactical readouts showing collective forces surrounding every major city on Earth. "Right on schedule," Sarah said quietly, her fingers moving across the control interface. "Maya." Lieutenant Cooper's voice came through clear and confident. "Neural defense networks are active. Every modified weapon we've distributed is online and ready. They won't be able to access their control protocols. All military units, acknowledge final confirmation," General Rivera commanded. "Execute Operation Mirror." Acknowledgements flooded in from around the globe. In every city, in every military base, humans stood ready with their gifted weapons. But these weren't the compliant tools the collective had provided. These were something new, something transformed by human ingenuity. The first wave of collective forces descended toward Earth's surface, their weapons powering up with familiar neural interfaces. They expected to find humans helpless against their advanced technology, their minds vulnerable to the control signals embedded in every weapon. They were wrong. In New York, a squadron of collective dropships encountered their first surprise. The neural-linked defense turrets they'd generously provided for Earth's protection months earlier swiveled to track them. But when they attempted to transmit the override codes, nothing happened. "Impossible." Vel-9's voice crackled over the command channel. "Their primitive minds cannot resist our neural protocols." Sarah's voice cut across all frequencies, clear and triumphant. "You made a fundamental mistake, Vel-9. You assumed that because we eagerly accepted your weapons, we couldn't understand them. You never realized we weren't just learning to use them. We were learning to make them better." Around the globe, human forces engaged the collective troops. But instead of the chaotic, easily dominated resistance the aliens expected, they encountered something unprecedented. Humans wielding modified versions of collective weapons with impossible skill and creativity. In Tokyo, defenders used reconfigured neural interfaces to link multiple weapon systems together, creating synchronized defense networks that adapted faster than the collective's tactical AI could process. In London, modified battle suits moved with a fluidity that shocked the invaders. Human neural plasticity allowing for reactions and maneuvers their rigid programming never anticipated. "This is impossible," Vel-9 transmitted, its crystalline form flickering with agitation. "Your species lacks the neural complexity to." "To what?" Sarah interrupted. to understand your technology, to improve it. While you were running your tests, measuring our aggression and combat responses, we were learning, adapting. Your neural interface weapons weren't just tools to us. They were windows into your entire technological framework. Dr. Patel's voice joined the transmission. Your mistake was thinking our neural plasticity was a weakness, that our adaptable minds made us unstable, unreliable. You never considered that this same adaptability would let us understand and modify your neural technology in ways your rigid thinking couldn't imagine. The battle raged across the planet, but it wasn't proceeding anything like the collective simulations had predicted. Their forces found their own weapons turned against them with devastating effectiveness. Worse, the humans were using modifications and combinations they'd never conceived of. In orbit, collective ships discovered their neural targeting systems compromised. Lieutenant Cooper's cyber warfare team had used their understanding of the neural interfaces to create viruses that spoke directly to the aliens' own neural networks. Confusion spread through their ranks as human-modified code rewrote their combat protocols in real time. You wanted to test our combat potential, General Rivera transmitted to the collective command ship, to see if we could be useful additions to your army. But you never considered what would happen when we decided to fight for ourselves. Sarah watched as the tactical displays showed collective forces falling into disarray. Their rigid hierarchical command structure, so dependent on neural programming and predetermined responses, couldn't adapt to the chaos humans had introduced into their systems. Last chance, Velmine, she broadcast. Withdraw your forces and recognize humanity as equals, or learn exactly how creative we can be with your own technology. The response came in the form of a massive energy buildup in the collective fleet. They were preparing to deploy their most powerful weapons, willing to risk devastating Earth's surface rather than admit defeat. But Sarah smiled, because that's exactly what they'd been waiting for. Now, she commanded, show them what humanity can really do. Around the planet, every modified weapon, every adapted piece of collective technology, began to pulse with new energy. The true extent of human innovation was about to be revealed, and the collective was about to learn why underestimating humanity had been their greatest mistake. The counterstrike. As the collective fleet charged their primary weapons, Dr. Sarah Chen initiated humanity's masterstroke. In her underground command center, she exchanged a knowing look with Maya Cooper before activating a sequence they'd prepared for months. Synchronize neural networks, Sarah commanded. Execute Protocol Prometheus. Across the globe, modified collective weapons began to pulse with a strange new energy. But instead of operating independently, they were linking together, creating a vast neural web that connected every human defender through their adapted interfaces. What are they doing? Veil 9's transmission carried an edge of uncertainty that hadn't been there before. Their neural patterns are changing. Dr. Patel's voice was calm as he monitored the massive neural network forming around the planet. We discovered something fascinating about your neural interface technology. It wasn't just designed for individual weapons control. It was capable of so much more. You just never imagined using it the way we have. The collective's energy weapons reached full charge, ready to devastate Earth's surface. But when they attempted to fire, nothing happened. Their neural-linked targeting systems were being overwhelmed by a flood of human consciousness, millions of minds working in perfect synchronization through the modified interface network. Impossible, Veil 9 transmitted. Your primitive minds cannot coordinate on this scale. Lieutenant Cooper's laugh carried across all frequencies. That's your problem, Veil 9. You keep thinking linearly. We don't just coordinate. We improvise, we adapt, we create patterns you never imagined possible. The proof of her words was displaying itself in real time. Human defenders weren't just fighting back. They were reshaping the battlefield itself. Modified neural interfaces allowed them to control multiple weapons simultaneously, creating intricate defense patterns that evolved faster than the collective's tactical computers could analyze. In orbit, human spacecraft launched from hidden bases, their pilots neural-linked not just to their own ships, but to entire squadrons of automated drones. The collective's rigid combat algorithms couldn't cope with the organic, ever-changing tactics that emerged from this human-AI hybrid warfare. You designed your neural technology to enforce conformity, Sarah broadcast to the increasingly desperate collective fleet, to create soldiers who would follow predetermined patterns. But we turned it into something else entirely, a tool for amplifying human creativity and cooperation. General Rivera's voice joined the transmission. Your weapons were meant to control us. Instead, they became conduits for what humanity does best, working together, adapting, and overcoming impossible odds. The collective's mighty fleet found itself trapped in a web of its own technology, turned against them in ways their rigid minds struggled to comprehend. Their ship's neural networks, designed to coordinate their attacks, became vulnerabilities as human-modified code rewrote their protocols faster than they could purge it. Dr. Yamamoto's team had discovered the key weakness in the collective's neural architecture. It couldn't handle true randomness, the beautiful chaos of human thought. Every attempt to counter human tactics only fed more data into the adaptive networks, making Earth's defenses stronger. Your final warning. Vel 9. Sarah transmitted. Your weapons are now our weapons. Your technology is our technology. And we've made it better than you ever imagined possible. The collective's response was to launch their ground forces in a desperate bid to overwhelm human positions. But as their troops descended through the atmosphere, they encountered something unprecedented. A battlefield where human defenders could instantly share tactical information, coordinate responses, and adapt strategies in real time through their neural network. In New York, a squad of human defenders demonstrated the full potential of the Modify technology. Their neural links allowed them to coordinate with inhuman precision, while maintaining the creativity and adaptability that made humans so dangerous. Collective forces, trained to expect predictable resistance patterns, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move while constantly creating new, unexpected tactics. You know what your biggest mistake was. Maya transmitted as she coordinated the global cyber defense network. You thought testing our combat potential meant measuring how well we could follow your protocols. You never tested how well we could break them. The collective's rigid military doctrine, based on millennia of controlling other species through neural programming, had never encountered a force like this. Every tactic they employed was countered before it could fully develop. Every strategy they attempted was met with dozens of innovative human responses. Sarah watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction as the collective fleet's formation began to break apart. Their attempts to regroup were being disrupted by human-controlled weapons firing in patterns that defied their combat algorithms. Their own neural interface technology, meant to ensure absolute control, had become the key to their undoing. Final phase, she ordered. Show them exactly what humanity can do with their primitive minds. Around the planet, the neural network hummed with power as humanity prepared to demonstrate the full extent of their innovations. The collective was about to learn that giving humans access to their technology hadn't created obedient soldiers. It had armed the most creative, adaptable, and determined species they'd ever encountered. And humanity was just getting started. Victory through innovation. The neural network spanning Earth pulsed with unprecedented power as humanity unveiled their greatest innovation. In the command center, Dr. Sarah Chen initiated the final sequence, her fingers dancing across holographic controls while streams of data filled the air around her. All units, commence final protocol, she broadcast. Show them what we've really been working on. The modified collective weapons began to shift and transform. Not just the small arms and defense systems, but every piece of their technology that humanity had touched. The neural interfaces that the collective had intended as chains became conduits for something entirely new. By the first 9, Veil 9's transmission carried genuine shock. What have you done to our technology? We didn't just modify your weapons, Dr. Paddle responded, monitoring the massive energy signatures building around Earth. We fundamentally changed how they work. Your neural interfaces weren't just for control, They were gateways to understanding consciousness itself. The truth revealed itself in spectacular fashion. The human neural network wasn't just coordinating their defenses, it was transforming the very nature of the collective's technology. Every weapon, every system they'd given humanity had been rebuilt from the inside out, turned into components of something far greater. Lieutenant Cooper's voice carried pride as she explained, "While you were studying our combat responses, we were studying you. Your neural technology showed us how your minds work, rigid, hierarchical, unable to handle true creativity. So we built something you couldn't even imagine." Around the planet, the modified technology began generating fields of pure consciousness. Human thought and creativity made manifest through the collective's own neural interfaces. Their weapons, designed to dominate minds, instead became amplifiers for humanity's greatest strengths. Impossible, Vale 9 transmitted as their fleet systems began to respond to the human neural fields. "Our technology cannot be altered at such a fundamental level." "That's where you're wrong," Sarah replied. "Your technology isn't just about weapons or control. It's about consciousness, about how minds interact with reality. You used it in the most limited way possible, to enforce obedience. We saw its true potential. The evidence was undeniable. Human defenders weren't just fighting the collective. They were reshaping the battlefield itself. The neural fields they generated could alter the very laws of physics within their range, turning the collective's rigid tactical algorithms into useless data. General Rivera coordinated the final push. You wanted soldiers who would follow orders without question. Instead, you gave your technology to a species that spent its entire history asking why and what if. This is the result. The collective fleet found itself trapped in a web of human consciousness, their neural-linked ships responding to human thoughts and creativity instead of their own commands. Every attempt to regain control only gave humanity more access to their systems. Dr. Yamamoto's voice carried across all frequencies. "Your neural technology was based on control and conformity. Ours is based on freedom and innovation. That's why you can't beat us. We're not just using your weapons, we're evolving them into something new." The massive energy buildup reached its peak, but instead of destruction, it created something unprecedented, a bridge between human and collective consciousness. Through their modified neural interfaces, humanity forced the collective to experience something they'd never known: true creativity, unrestricted by rigid programming and predetermined responses. "This is your final choice," Sarah transmitted to Val 9. "You can retreat and recognize humanity as equals, or we can use your own neural technology to show your entire species what it means to think like humans, to feel the chaos and beauty of true creative thought." The collective ships hung motionless in orbit, their crews experiencing human consciousness for the first time. Through the neural bridges, they felt the boundless creativity, the constant adaptation, the beautiful chaos of minds that refused to be constrained by rigid patterns. Vale 9's next transmission carried something new: respect, tinged with fear. "How do you live like this, with minds that never stop changing, never stop creating?" "That's what you never understood," Sarah replied. "We don't just live like this. We thrive on it. Change, adaptation, creativity. These aren't weaknesses to be controlled. They're the source of our strength." The collective fleet began to withdraw, their rigid worldview shattered by the experience of human consciousness. They had come expecting to find primitive minds ready for conditioning. Instead, they found a species that had taken their technology and transformed it into something beyond their comprehension. As the last ships disappeared into hyperspace, Vel 9 transmitted a final message. "The Council of Nine recognizes humanity as equals, not because you mastered our weapons, but because you showed us possibilities we never imagined. We will return, not to conquer, but to learn." In the command center, Sarah watched the tactical displays clear. Humanity had done more than defend itself. It had forced one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations to confront the limitations of their own thinking. Well, General Rivera said with a slight smile. I guess they finally learned not to underestimate humans. No, Sarah replied, already pulling up new schematics showing further modifications to the neural technology. They learned something more important. They learned that the most powerful weapon isn't the one that controls minds. It's the one that sets them free. Around the world, humans began the work of integrating their innovations into everyday life. The neural technology that was meant to enslave them had instead become a tool for unprecedented advancement. The collective had sought to create perfect soldiers, but in doing so, they had given humanity the keys to their own evolution. And this was just the beginning.